All right.
So what kind of injustices did you and your family experience in Fairfax with the government or the police or?
Maybe I might have a misconception, but I felt that the opportunities that the white had that we didn't have. For one thing, when the schools started integrating, why was it that my children, because they weren't in the community at the time and they were traveling military with their daddy and I, why did they have to go to a judge to sign up to go to a white school? And that was Woodrow Wilson, right out there in Fairfax. And just like my daughter told me when she went there, she said she was watched so much, just like she was a criminal. And she cried when I had to take her. I can't think of the judge's name. I was trying to think of it. My daughter told me and I forgot. I think she said Judge Brown, Judge Mike. But anyway, we went down there, sign up, and where you were born, and
What year was
and
that?
how do you feel about going to an integrated school?
What year was that?
That was in the 60s. When did the integration? It was when it started. But see, they had been abroad at the time it started. And I think when they came, they just wanted to get the feel of the parents. Maybe because my husband and I, we had to take them.
Well, what Fairfax did in 1964 was
64, yeah.
they made all the black children parents fill out forms and go before the magistrates
Yeah.
and declare that they wanted their child to go to an integrated school.
Yeah. But why was it?
Right, very
If you
intimidating.
integrate,
Yes.
If you integrate, you say, well, your child can go to their school in his neighborhood, you see? But the reason I say, because you don't say anything, but you get the feeling that they know the difference.
Did Reverend Parker or Reverend Washington ever talk about segregation or equality in the pulpit?
Yes, they did, because at that time, most of the time, if anybody got in any trouble, and that's what I liked about the pastors, we always, I know my mother did, and my father did, got the pastor to go with, because my brother, James, he's dead now, he got in some trouble. And Doug Collins, talked to my father and told him, said, it's best to have the minister to go with them. And I think at that time, now, I got to go back here, because there was a Reverend Carter at Merrifield. Now, he's not on record.
Move your hand from on top of the microphone.
But,
So do you remember Reverend Carter?
not my parents remember Reverend Carter, because they got Reverend Carter to go with James to Fairfax, so that it seemed like to me that you couldn't go to the courtroom unless you had a pastor or some prominent person in the community to represent you. That was during the time of segregation. But see, now you can go on your own, you see. So I think because I remember Reverend Carter, but is he on record in Merrifield?
Well, he was before Reverend Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, Reverend Carter, I remember.
So do you remember anything that your parents said about Reverend Carter?
No, they said that he was a very good pastor, because I remember when James got in that trouble. If he wasn't, they said it was a car that was parked in the churchyard, and some of the boys went in there and they seeped gas from the car, something like that. And when they came out, they said they saw my brother, but my brother didn't do that. But I think he was with some of the, I don't know who he was with, because I can't remember. But I know my father was very worried about it. So, Joe Collins, he came over to the house and talked to my father. Said, I'm going to talk to Reverend Carter, and we're going to get him to go, because it happened there in the church ground. Yeah. But they were just taking gas. I don't know whether it was for, because my brother didn't have a car. He was probably helping somebody else. But he said he didn't get the gas out, but he watched the church so that while the other guy got the gas out.
Now, were you around when they started the building fund for the new church?
No, I wasn't. But I had talked with God concerning it. And he was just so excited about it. And he said he was hoping that they would soon be able to move. Because you were getting so fenced in commercially. But he was really interested. But he did a lot. He did a lot to help. And I know with him gone, it's kind of hard. They're at a standstill. At a standstill. But Murrayfield had some working people. Had good members. And Murrayfield had a good school. Although it was a one-room school. Although it was segregation. But I think the black people did more during the time of segregation than they're doing now. It looked like to me they're not doing what they're supposed to do. We are free now. And let's walk and talk like we are. You understand what I mean? So we got a whole lot of ground.
What kind of occupations did the other members of Merrifield and have? Do you know? I know your parents were farmers.
Yeah, the farmers. Most of them were not farmers, but they worked. Not, they did, clerical, some of us clerical workers and all. Now, I think your mother worked at the store, the furniture store, and the generation that came along with me, most of them had good jobs. Wasn't that very good?
What was the race relations between the whites and blacks in Merrifield?
I think pretty good. As long as we knew our place. Now, I know that's the way it was when I was young. Now, if you knew your place, you had a good relationship with the white. But if you stepped out of place, and then you didn't have none. See, and that's what I didn't like. But now, you can say that the relationship between the white, long. But we still have to watch it.
Did you see any violence, like lynchings or anything like that when you were growing up in Merrifield?
No, I never seen any of that. Now, I don't know, part of my parents experienced that. Because we knew our place. I think we lived in fear. But we didn't live in the fear to the extent that we wanted to do any bodily harm. But I know I was afraid to go in a place that I knew that the blacks weren't allowed to go. Because when I would go to Alexandria, I knew the theater that I was supposed to go. I know where I was supposed to go to eat. I know I had to go in the back. It hurt, but we knew what we had to do.
So is it fair to say the church gave you an identity
Yes,
and
it
an
did.
importance?
Yes, it did. And then the school did too. Now, Mrs. Alma Walker, I'll never forget her. She told us what we had to do and how hard it was for us walking 3 miles. But it won't be like this always. I will remember her the longest day I live of her telling me the most important thing for you boys and girls to do is to get a good education so that you can make a change in the society. She said, that's the reason that I got my education, because I wanted a better life.
Do you know where Ms. Walker was from?
Franconia, Virginia. She had to drive all the way from Franconia, Virginia to Murrayfield for the teach, because there were no places for her there. But they don't have to drive now. They're teaching in the bright schools. Hallelujah. That's the reason she said, things are going to get better. But you got to keep your chin up, make good. Don't give up. And that's what my father told us.
Did your grandmother, who was born in slavery, or your great-grandmother, did they ever talk to you about being enslaved?
Oh, yes.
What did they say?
Oh, they said it's a hard life. My grandmother told me that my great-grandmother tried 3 times to escape, to get away. But each time she got so far, the horses would come and turn around. She was on the railroad track, trying to get away, run away. And they got the horses to get on that railroad track to turn her around. And she told me. And she said, I never wanted to experience that. She got so tired of being abused. She had a child by the plantation owner. She didn't want that because she was a decent woman. She was so glad when she found a man that could marry her and take her away.
What kind of tasks did she have to do on the plantation?
Everything. And one of the tasks was to be with the plantation owner.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that.
That was one of the tasks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, because that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be with them, and if they weren't with them, then they were horsewhip them. Isn't that a terrible life?
It's unbelievable.
It's a terrible life.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I say that we are so fortunate to be where we are.
We are.
We're so fortunate to have a black president. We're so fortunate that we can say what we want to say. And we can do what we want to do. And that's the reason I tell my grandchildren, my children, be what you want to be now. Don't go down in history as being nobody. Go down in history as being somebody. And that's the reason I admire you with your education. I tell my grandchildren, go as far as you can go.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see another black president.